Citizen comments. Okay, board comments?
Yeah, the Club Road sewage leak, just for general information, the caution tape is still there out of an abundance of caution. Not that there's a problem still, it's just that they want to keep people off the area. I talked to Dave Walters of the DEQ, I've talked to Mike Kavanaugh of the Health Department. The repair has been completed, it has been done satisfactorily according to the DEQ requirements and the Health Department requirements, but there are concerns by Mike Kavanaugh from the Health Department about the excessive time it took from the time they discovered the leak to the time the emergency response team from Kalkaska arrived. Now, the emergency response team did a fantastic job, and Mike and Dave Walters are very pleased with that, but Mike is concerned about how there was so many hours in between and what they did in between before the emergency response team showed up was not proper to protocol. And he's kind of concerned that if something like this happens again, we need to be proactive to make sure that the leak is minimized as much as possible. What happened, according to my conversation with Mike, is that when they discovered the leak, they dug down before they called him, which was against protocol. They're supposed to call him immediately upon discovering the leak. When they dug down, 2,200 gallons of raw sewage was emitted out of the leak totally, they estimate. Because it was coming up and spreading out, it eventually went onto the parking lot on Danny Nivelt's property and across the road. It was starting to go across the road. So what they did, and this was before they called the Health Department or DEQ, they dug a trench from the pit that was leaking, or what they dug, to the ditch across alongside Club Road. And that caused some problems because now cars are driving through it and spreading the sewage around. And Mike was very concerned about that because it made the leak worse. What he would have preferred to see was, upon calling him, if they hadn't done it already, he would have done it, called a local contractor in with a sewage pumping truck and had them pump it continuously until the emergency response team showed to minimize the contamination. Because of the spread, it eventually will cost us more because they had to remove more soil and it just is spread out, and it just took a lot more to clean up the problem. So he would like us to see that from now on, if there's a problem like that, he would like us to make sure that local contractors were involved and that he was called immediately so he could give his input on how to minimize the damage as much as possible. And we could get, because there was like several hours between the time they discovered the leak and the time the emergency team from Kalkaska showed up. And during that time, it's leaking everywhere. And he was very concerned that this should not have happened, especially the trench from the pit to the ditch, because the ditch is considered a waterway. And a quote from him was, "There was no reason to discharge sewage into that ditch." That was a direct quote when I talked to him. So we need to be proactive when we see problems and gaps in protocols and stuff, that we can, jump on that and make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. Because I thought that was a really good idea that Mike had, and I had thought about it, but he's in the business of thinking about those things, to get a local contractor like Pete, the August guys come in with their trucks and just pump it to keep it contained while the emergency response team is coming. So we need to try to get that into the response team protocol, I think.
I'm concerned because I have not heard one bit of that.
Well,
from
I called Mike.
Well, I've talked to Mike several times, and he didn't relay any of that to me. And we did call Randy August immediately. I did not know, and he was in Petoskey at the time, and he didn't know if he could get anybody over there. But we did call Randy.
Well, Mike said he could have called another
Yeah, okay,
a
well, I
more
understand that,
local
but
one.
I'm just concerned about why, in this, I've talked to Mike several times about this,
Mhm.
that's the first time I've ever heard this, I'm gonna have a discussion with Mike tomorrow.
Okay, I think that would be good, because I know he is just concerned that Calcasieu is just too far for a timely response in an emergency. And he's right,
Yeah,
it is too far.
It is,
Yeah.
it
You
is.
know, and we need to maybe be more proactive in minimizing the damage like that, you know. Dave Walters is concerned with the issues of performance at the plant. He is, the facility is not considered a startup facility anymore. And his concerns are the ongoing problem with excessive nitrogen and phosphorus, that they still have not got a handle on it after all these months of trying to keep those levels down. And also, the reporting is continuously late, and we're about the only facility that has got as many violations for non-compliance of reporting on time as any other of the small facilities in the state. I mean, between January and now, there's like 65 plus violations for just getting the reporting in late. Now, if I know it's due on the 20th of the month, I think he should know, you know? And I think we need to be a little bit more insistent on getting that, because, you know, we don't need all those violations just because of paperwork. But the problem with the excessive nitrogen and phosphorus levels, it's been an ongoing problem. And now the operator wants to contact the manufacturer of the system to find out what he can do to try to get a handle on it. Well, if he's can't get a handle on it after all these months, and he has to contact the manufacturer, do we have a defective system? Do we have defective parts? What's going on? You know, that he can't get the nitrogen and phosphorus levels down. And that's a big concern of Dave Walters from the DEQ. So I think we need to be proactive on that too, to find out what those problems really are. If we're gonna be changing operators soon because Gordy Frazier's pulling out of the contract, we don't wanna end up like Elk Rapids did, with everything pushed under the rug, and then end up with millions of dollars of upgrades and repairs once the operator leaves. So we need to be proactive, I think.
Thank you, Janet. I know that one thing, when they do get it in, if there's one thing wrong with the report, it's all wrong.
Right.
Even though the rest of it's right,
Yes.
they have to do it again. So
But most of the violations is due not just because of the excessive levels, but also because it's late. And I don't see a reason for that to be continuously be a problem.